Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about self-doubt. Um, and this is more of like a story that I have to tell, and then just um, sort of like what I realized because of this. So if you haven't seen the video on my close call with COVID, you might want to see that one first. Um, I was I got sick at the end of December, and I, for the first time in a very long time, I got the flu, or I had a temperature. I have not been sick like that in a really long time. I can't remember the last time I had a fever. I mean, I've had other things, um, but like a flu, I have not had. And so, I started taking my temperature, and I described the story in the video where I'm taking my temperature and I take it again and I take it again, and I'm seeing my temperature slowly go from 99 to 100, and then, kind of keeps going back and forth until it's just like 100, 100, 100, and eventually it hits 101, and I'm just like, no, there's no way. I even took the battery out of the thermometer and replaced it because in my mind I was like, there's no way I'm not sick. Like I know I have a runny nose, and I've had a runny nose for several days, and I know my head hurts, and I know I have chills, but I'm not sick. And the reason that I felt it was important to talk about this is because this is something that chronically ill people have gone through, um, you know, for the larger part of their illness. Many of us have been dealing with this for years and years, and that's having other people tell us that we are not sick. And that can be your doctors. Many of us have had several doctors, not just one, several, tell us that we're not sick, that we don't, there's nothing showing up on our tests, that we don't have anything. And many of us have also had this done to us by our own families, and that's been my experience as well, where I've had family tell me there's nothing wrong with you, and really be very aggressive with that. So, I wanted to sort of talk about the the implications of that. And I hadn't, I have two diagnoses at this point. I have doctors from UCLA. I have doctors here at the local hospital, a really big hospital, um, that have diagnosed me, and that, I'm under their care. And even with all of that, um, I still experience this, and I just could not believe, after, during the time that I was sick, obviously, I was kind of panicked because I didn't know whether I had COVID or not. So I really wasn't thinking about my brain and my psychological process at that point. But once I got better, and once I got, once I was feeling better, and I was, no longer had symptoms, I kind of was able to take a step back and look at what I had, what I had done, or what I had been feeling. The first thing I told myself was not to take a COVID test. Um, I literally told myself, you don't need to get tested for COVID. You don't have that. And my sister did the same thing. She told me, she says, you don't have COVID. You don't have that. Don't waste the test, because we had only 4 rapid tests. She had done one, she had tested negatives, therefore I was also negative, and you don't have COVID. Like it was almost like an automatic response, like a knee-jerk reaction from her. You don't have COVID, you don't have that, don't waste the test. And my family seems to have that um that automatic response whenever I open my mouth about anything, any kind of symptom, any kind of I'm not feeling well. It's like, no, you're fine. Like, just stop thinking about it. So even though I have been diagnosed, formally diagnosed, and I'm under the care of like at least 5 doctors that I can think of right now, um, I will still be told you're not feeling what you're feeling on a regular basis. Um, and even I do that to myself now, because even when I looked at the rapid test, I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. Like, it's not COVID. And I had been looking around for a place to get a PCR test done. And I was like, it's pointless. I don't have COVID. I'm not even sick. At that point, I wasn't having a fever yet. But even once I had the fever, it was almost like I kept telling myself, you don't have enough symptoms. You don't have enough symptoms to have COVID. And then I would have an additional symptom, and I was like, well, that's not enough symptoms, anyways. And then I would have an additional symptom, and I was like, no, that's not enough. So when I started thinking about this, I thought to myself, what would have been enough? Would it have been enough for me to pass out? Would it have been enough for me to be hospitalized? Would it have been enough for me to be, not able to catch my breath? Like, at what point would I have been convinced that I was sick? Right? My temperature actually got up to, and here's another thing that even when I think of this, I kept taking my temperature. It went from 99 to 100. And I actually had one reading of 101, which is definitely like high or higher. I mean, it's anything over 100 and over is high. But when I had that reading of 101, I was like, no, that's not it. I was like, I don't have 101. And I moved the thermometer to another side of my mouth and retook the temperature, and the reading came out at 100. So even though I had already replaced the battery, I had been taking my temperature. I took my temperature no less than 20 times within the span of like a couple of hours. And I saw my temperature going up. It went from 99 to 100, and it hit 101. But I just kept telling myself it's not real. And I asked myself, what is it going to take? What is it going to take for you to believe that it's real? What is it going to take for you to to actually say I'm sick, and I'm not feeling well? I want to also be clear about something, because there's a very popular word out there called gaslighting, and people have started using this for everything, gaslighting, medical gaslighting. And gaslighting, I think, is something different. This is simply people just, not caring enough, or being too ignorant. I would say that this is more ignorance than anything else. I think gaslighting is when you are clearly, you're clearly not well, and people are convincing you, they're doing things around you to make you feel like you're going nuts. It's almost like a manipulation. For example, somebody hiding something from you that's yours, but convincing you that you lost it, and then saying, "Oh, but it was right over there." They're manipulating a situation to make it seem like something other than what it is. Whereas here, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just the denial of the people around me, and also my doctor's not seeing something clear on paper and saying, well, you don't have anything. I wouldn't say that it's quite gaslighting. And so I think we need to be very clear on that. And I don't want to title this video medical gaslighting either, because I don't think that's what this is. What it is denial. And I think that's where this stems from. Not just my own personal denial, but the denial of family members, and sometimes even doctors, because doctors don't see enough, even if they are convinced, even if they know that the patient is unwell. It's almost like a denial, like, no, it can't be that. I don't have enough evidence, or it's not the typical case that I've seen in other patients with the same illness. So it's just a type of denial. And for me, I think that word is more appropriate. But, even when I continued to talk about this after I got better, and I would talk about, I would bring it up, my mom was like, yeah, but you didn't even have a temperature. You didn't even have anything. And I was like, yeah, I did. My temperature got up to 100. She's like, that's normal though. That's a normal temperature. And, when it's your parents, or when it's a doctor, you believe what they say. If they tell you 100 is a normal temperature, you're going to say, okay, well, 100 is a normal temperature. It isn't. It's definitely elevated. But these are the people that we trust, right? Our parents, our doctors, that kind of thing. And so I think for me, it was just that I'm starting to do it to myself. It's happened to me so much throughout my life, being told that I'm not sick, that I don't have anything, that now I do that to myself. And I feel like you can actually be trained, you can actually be I guess brainwashed by people to the point where you do that to yourself. They don't even have to do it anymore. They don't even have to do that work because they've conditioned you so well to do it yourself. And that's kind of like a type of what is that called when you're like a hostage and you start identifying with the person that's kidnapped you. I forget what that word is, but you start identifying with the aggressor and saying, well, no, I'm not sick. Like there's no way, everybody's telling me that I'm not. There's no way that I could possibly be sick. But it was something that I continued to think about afterwards. I talked about it with my therapist, and we kind of went through that process, discussing why I did that and why I wasn't convinced. And obviously it's because of the way that that my family has treated me and things that they've told me over time, and also many doctors. um, but it just, it was just upsetting it was upsetting for me to see that nothing has changed when it comes to my family, when it comes to my mom and other people in my family, and that I was doing that to myself, and also how dangerous that could be. Because if it had been COVID, or if, regardless of what it is, it's still, in a person who's chronically ill, it's still a serious situation. You need to take action right away. You need to, take medicine or call the doctor. Even when I was looking for, like I said, when I was looking for a test, they're like, you don't have COVID, you don't need to do that. And so I spoke to a doctor and I just told him like a couple of symptoms that I had, because at that point I didn't have a fever yet. And he said, I'm going to order you a PCR test. And it wasn't until that doctor said, I want you to come in for a PCR test, that I saw, my mom take it seriously and actually start to panic. I could see that she was panicking. Um, and it just, it's bizarre that if I say it, if I say I don't feel well and I feel sick, it's like, no, you're fine. It's almost like being told you're a liar and you lie so much. I don't believe you. But the second a doctor says, look, just come in for a test, we need to actually test you for this, then suddenly it's like, oh well, this other person that I trust more than the actual person who is sick, well, now I'm going to take it seriously. um but it's such a danger, because I actually let it go. I let it keep going. I had the fever and I just let it keep going and keep going. Instead of taking something to reduce the fever, I just let it keep going. Until I thought to myself, well, I don't feel well. I was having chills. I had a headache. And I finally decided, I was like, why am I dealing with this discomfort? Why don't I just take some medicine? And literally within 30 minutes, the chills stopped. And it still took a few hours for the fever to go down, but I was dealing with it for a few hours, and I was like, why did I do that to myself? Why did I continue to just let it go? Being that I wasn't feeling right. But I was convinced. I was absolutely convinced that there was nothing wrong with me, that I didn't have anything. Um, and it is very powerful what people do to you, particularly your parents, who you trust, and doctors. You do convince yourself that there isn't anything going on, and that is incredibly dangerous, for someone that is actually very sick. um, I'm fortunate I didn't end up in the hospital, or anything like that, but you know I think of the future and I think to myself, I need to trust what I'm feeling. I need to stop listening or worrying about what someone else is going to say. Um, so I think that's just kind of my point with this video. I'm kind of venting, but I think there is a bigger point here that you don't want to put yourself in that situation. Listen to yourself and don't ask for other opinions either. Because I didn't ask anybody for their opinion. They gave it to me, but I didn't ask them for it. And I made the decision myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to schedule something with the doctor, see if I can get an appointment, right away. And fortunately, I did, and he ordered the test. Um, and I listened to my instinct. And like I said, this was before the fever even hit. I was, my nose, my sinuses were in a lot of pain, and I was like, there's something going on here. Like, I don't feel right. And so I listened to that. I listened to my own body instead of listening to other people who have never been convinced that I have any kind of serious illness, and just decided to move forward on my own. And I think I have started to do that in the last several years, is just start to take the initiative, and do what I need to do to improve my situation. Um, but I think it is imperative to reduce the noise around you, because it could have dangerous consequences. And I think that was something that I realized later on. Um, and I was grateful that it hadn't been worse, because I was not, I mean, I did listen to myself, but, I also was listening to everyone else at the same time. And, when you're chronically ill, I hate to say this, you have to take care of yourself. We wish that other people would look out for us and take care of us, but it's just not going to happen. We have to look out for ourselves, because we inhabit this body. We're the only ones that can feel what it feels. And other people, unfortunately, do not believe us in that case. So, yeah, that's what I have for you today. It was just unbelievable when I looked back, and the weird denial and the weird self-doubt that I just, I could see it on the thermometer. I had concrete evidence in front of me, and I was just telling myself, no, there's nothing wrong with you. So believe yourself, um, believe what you feel, and take care of yourself, and also try not to ask for too many opinions, because I think as chronically ill people, we do that a lot. We're in Facebook groups, we're in forums, we're always asking everybody else to validate what we feel, and we really don't need that. If we're feeling something, we're feeling something, and we need to get to the source of where that's coming from. So that's what I have for you today. If you've had similar experiences, please leave them down in the comments. I'd really like to know if you guys have also gone through this with your family. I know a lot of us have gone through it with our doctors, or friends, or, I'd like to hear some experiences. But yeah, let me know. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.